Facepalm America, I'm Beowulf Rockland. Welcome to the beginning of a wonderful week. I felt a little depressed going into this particular episode, but then I searched the news one last time to make sure there were not any headlines that I was missing. And sure enough, there was something. So while I will introduce to you John Rothmann, the host of Around the Political World with John Rothmann. John, thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
I must take the opportunity to broach this if you haven't heard it yet, and you may have by now, but I take pleasure in reading this. Donald Trump's lawyers. This is from the Express in the UK. Donald Trump's lawyers told a New York appellate court Monday that it's impossible for him to post a bond covering the full amount of his $454 million civil fraud judgment while he appeals. Now, this means that Trump's New York properties could be seized if he cannot pay a financial penalty linked to his New York civil fraud trial. New York Attorney General Letitia James, who presented the case against Trump, is ready to seize property if Trump cannot produce the money. She vowed to ensure Trump covers the full fine, either through cash or assets. Speaking on ABC, she claimed if he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek judgment enforcing mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets. John, there are many difficult and depressing things to discuss, but to me, this is a buoy for my spirits like almost nothing else could be.
You mean you didn't offer to write a check to cover Donald Trump's expenses?
I did not make a contribution in that particular regard, no.
No, the answer is Donald Trump is getting his comeuppance. But there's another side to this that everybody has to understand. The Republican Party is going to nominate Donald Trump for president of the United States.
There's the side.
Everyone has to pause for a moment and understand. This is a man who, when he came down that golden escalator, said he was going to pay for his own presidential campaign. He wasn't going to take money from anybody. Nobody could buy him because, he had so much money. This is a man who has already taken $50 million of contributions to his various PACs to pay his legal fees. Well, he's got no place to go now in terms of these fines, except to pay them himself. And if that means the collapse of his Trump empire, so be it. But you know what's interesting? I want to give you two words: persecution and prosecution.
Yes.
You see, you and I view this as the prosecution for legitimate claims against Donald Trump. His supporters view it as persecution. And what that means, in my mind, is a very simple reality. Donald Trump is going to say, help me. Are they going to pay all this money? Are they going to send him those contributions? Frankly, I'd rather have them send the contributions to Facepalm America. The absurdity of it is incredible. And not to mention the fact that you now have Donald Trump saying that the January 6th prisoners who have been convicted and confessed are hostages.
Yes.
He's talking about putting Liz Cheney in jail.
Yes.
And the corker on this is the bloodbath.
My God.
Was he talking about the automobile industry? Was he talking about the country? Well, all I can tell you is Donald Trump is a walking disaster. And let me kick one more thing out before you launch into all you want to do. I am nominating again Mike Pence for the Profiles in Courage Award. Mike Pence made clear he will not support Donald Trump for president of the United States.
Good for him.
Now, his reasons include the fact that Trump has betrayed what Pence believes are conservative principles. Mm-hmm. And Mike Pence is absolutely correct. Now, let me remind everybody that I have never voted for Mike Pence, that I don't agree with him on almost anything, but this guy deserves the Profiles in Courage Award, the same one that was just given to Liz Cheney, who Donald Trump wants to put in jail. The absurdity of it is so profound. So the bottom line on all of this, Beowulf, the Republicans are going to meet in convention middle of July of this year. They are going to nominate, evidently, Donald Trump for president, a man who has been indicted on 91 felony counts, a man who has been convicted of sexual harassment,
Yeah.
if not worse, a man who has, frankly, built his entire castle on sand, and it turns out the whole empire may collapse. And yet, the true believers will believe him until the end of time.
No, they absolutely will, and they will. I don't think they're going to be able to cover the whole cost, even if each one of his supporters, gave everything that they could, because the size of this claim is just that big. But they will believe him, and regardless of what judgment is made against him, and indeed. If the election goes against him, I'm sure that the vast majority of them will believe, as he was referring to here, that with his bloodbath comment, that they will stick with him and believe that it was just an assault against him, that it was rigged in one way or another. And you can talk about, okay, yes, the context. He was talking about the U.S. economy and how trade.
You're talking about the auto industry.
The auto industry and the trade balance, exactly. But he did literally say the words, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. He may have meant that economically, but nevertheless, they are horrific words to choose. And there's a movie out right now, as a matter of fact, which posits a potential civil war in the United States of America. And in the context of that, and he doesn't choose these words randomly. It's as you indicated. What did he actually mean? I think he at least instinctively chooses words in a way that he knows is going to be provocative. And in this case, it's not only provocative, but out and out dangerous, because people
remember January 6th. Please.
Absolutely.
He uttered the word peaceful in the context of his talk that day on the ellipse. But I want to be crystal clear. There's nothing peaceful about Donald Trump.
Not at all.
There is nothing conciliatory about Donald Trump. And if he is going to be president of the United States again, let's think about how he uses his words.
Yes.
I am terrified. But what I really want to make a point about, and I've been talking about a lot about this in the days ahead, is the question of the future of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
The Republican Party doesn't exist anymore. It's the party of Donald Trump. It's the fulfillment of Donald Trump Jr.'s statement on the ellipse. It's no longer the Republican Party. It's the Trump Party. We better deal with the fact that we need a two-party system in this country that really works. And the Republican Party, once Donald Trump is defeated, and I believe he will be defeated overwhelmingly, when that happens, the Republican Party is going to have to rebuild outside of the shadow of Donald Trump. And I hope to God they can.
I hope so, too. And I hope that people like Mike Pence and Liz Cheney, again, as profoundly as both you and I disagree with them, will be there to take from the rubble what can be taken in order to reform a critical part of our political institutions in the United States of America. Because you're absolutely right to say that it's not just metaphorical that it's the Donald Trump party. I mean, look, his daughter-in-law is now co-chair of the Republican Party. They are, in as a part of the mechanisms of the institution itself. I shudder to think that there are true actual Republican conservatives, because Donald Trump is far from a conservative. He's about nothing but himself.
That's what Mike Pence said. Mike Pence,
right,
in his criticism of Donald Trump, said he has betrayed basic conservative principles.
Yeah.
I think what Mike Pence is counting on is when Trump fails, the party will have to find someone who can articulate the best of what Donald Trump's administration did, but who can lead the Republican Party into a broader, brighter future. Pence is positioning himself for that. I hope he is able to move the Republican Party. I was pointing out this morning in my podcast, the last vice president to publicly oppose a president was John Nance Garner in 1940.
Right.
And Garner ended up fading into political obscurity in Uvalde, Texas, his home, and never came back to Washington again. These are serious times, and we need to address them. Anyway, I know there are other things you want to talk about, so let's get to your list.
Yeah, I mean, you have touched on a few of them here. I certainly want to give some attention to the fact that Trump called for Liz Cheney, and not only her, but the entire January 6th committee to be jailed. This is another instance that we're talking about, oh, well, he's going to become a dictator, and people, to a certain extent, don't take that seriously. Well, take it seriously, because he's saying exactly the people that he wants to put in jail. Not try, not, prosecute, but just put in jail, without any process whatsoever. And this is the kind of thing that we can expect from him if he were to be elected in November. This is the death of democracy. This is what we are facing. And this is, as you say, a very serious thing.
Our job, and I don't say this as a Democrat or as a Republican, I say this as an American. Our job is to make sure that Donald Trump gets nowhere near the Oval Office.
Yes.
And this is not a liberal issue or a conservative issue. This is, I say, an American issue, and we have to do that. May I just quickly, because I know our time is limited, I want to turn to foreign policy for just a moment.
Please do.
Donald Trump is making clear that he will do nothing for Ukraine.
Yeah.
He's talking about not one more penny.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can tell you is that would be a disaster for America and for the world. NATO has been expanded to include Sweden and Finland, not because of Joe Biden's initiatives, but because of Donald Trump's threat and the threat that comes from Vladimir Putin, who Donald Trump is still applauding, still cheering on. We better understand. Now, this morning, President Biden had a discussion with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Have been in active discussions all morning on this subject, and everybody should be aware the Israelis. The statement by Mr. Netanyahu was fascinating. He said, "We are not a banana republic." Well, it's reminiscent of Menachem Begin saying to Ronald Reagan, "We are not a banana republic. We are not a vassal state." People need to understand that Israel is going to do what it has to do to survive. There is no other nation in the world whose very existence is threatened except for Ukraine. But you understand, Israel's existence means complete destruction and annihilation. Ukraine would just mean Russian domination again. So this is a real problem. And I must point out that Donald Trump's attitude toward China, his flip on TikTok, is absolutely astounding. And let me be, again, perfectly clear, if I can quote my old boss, Richard Nixon. I'm opposed to any censorship. I do not believe there should be any restriction on TikTok. I think what you have to do is to go on a massive public relations campaign and tell people what TikTok is doing. You need to expose them for what they're doing. And if they violate the law, they should suffer the consequences. But the idea of censorship of that kind means, Beowulf, that one day they could say, well, that Beowulf Rockland and that John Rothman, they are really dangerous, and they would eliminate us as well. That's not the way democracy should function.
No, absolutely not. And I would like to see some more regulations, frankly, with regard to privacy and security of information posed on American companies. Frankly, I don't think that TikTok is the greatest danger.
If you take a look at Facebook, Bill, if you take a look at Facebook, if I look something up online, do you see all the ads that I get? And on Facebook,
no doubt,
the same
absolutely,
thing?
Yeah.
Talk about an intrusion into my privacy.
It is, yeah.
It's astounding.
Yeah, but I think it's got to be managed as a totality, as opposed to this xenophobic route that has been found and focused on TikTok in particular, because it happens to be owned by China. I think, frankly, TikTok has the same problems that any massive online presence platform does, and that we have to address them. Because and frankly, I think we need people in positions of power to regulate these who have a better understanding than they do. I mean, I see so often these committee hearings, like the last time they spoke with Mark Zuckerberg, it was clear that most of the people on that committee really did not have a firm grasp on how the basic technology worked. And I think that they need much better guidance on this and frankly teaching and learning on this so that they can understand what they really need to do. We have to have people in place that are well educated in this so they know how to deal with it. Otherwise,